It's my first week back at work, just about to do my 4th shift in a row, then I have 3 off. For the last week I've been hardening off all my plants, getting them ready to be planted out. And today is the ideal to plant them out. So when you harden off your plants, the point of hardening them off, and I've said it before in a previous video, is when you're growing these from seeds indoors, they are very well protected, they're in a stable environment, and they don't necessarily develop their cuticle properly, which is the protective layer over the leaf and on the underside of the leaf and stems, which protects that's the epidermis of the plant, which is the inner cells, the first layer of cells. So we're putting them out. You start off at half an hour in dappled sunlight, or preferably even an overcast day with a little bit of wind. Ideally, right from the seedlings, you should have a fan blowing on them to imitate wind. It helps strengthen the cell walls and the stalk of the plant. And then the next day a little bit longer, then the next day a little bit longer, and eventually the plant will start to develop a hardened cuticle, giving it a better chance of survival once you plant it out. And then a day like this, where it's sort of overcast, there's a little bit of sun, there's a little bit of a breeze, and then tonight it's supposed to start raining, and then tomorrow it's supposed to rain even a little bit more, so it's perfect for these guys to go out. They would have had time to settle in overnight, and then by tomorrow they'll get it well watered in, though I will be watering these in as soon as I plant them. I'm going to do what I do best and wing the spacings. But I have 11 broccolis, and they're that summer variety that I brought. It's an F1 breed. So it'll be interesting to see how well they go. And I think this is the perfect spot in my garden because it gets afternoon shade. It doesn't absolutely get annihilated with the sun throughout the day too as it warms up. It should be perfect for these guys for this first lot. I want to plant them about a foot apart. You can plant them closer, but if you plant them closer, the heads of the broccolis are going to develop a little bit smaller. So it's a bit of a, do you want big show winning broccolis, or do you want a heap of just, good sized family feeding broccolis? I'm going to go for somewhere in between. It's crazy what your own compost, Yubakashi tea, the other compost, one of the other composting methods that I use. So you've seen it in one of my composting video, along with just a few other amendments. How soft and fluffy you can make this. So good. And just to help give the plant a bit more of a head start, I'll fluff up all the soil around it, the decent size around where I'm going to plant it, instead of just digging the immediate hole. Just a small bit of that bottom bone. Put that in. A little bit of sheep and chicken pellets. Cover that. My theory is when the roots start to establish themselves and they start to search down and out, they'll hit all these little pockets of nutrients from the sheep pellets and everything, also bringing more life to the base of the plant from all the microorganisms that will break down those pellets, creating this really cool symbiotic relationship. And generally you can use a mycorrhizal fungi that you put in there, just a small scoop, and that also helps with the relationship between the roots and the microorganisms in the soil. The fungi and the root system of the plant work together, feeding each other. But I don't have any of that left because last time I planted out, I got Larry to help me grow. So we've got root bound. Healthy though, nice and white. Your roots are healthy when they're nice and white. If they start to go a little bit brown, then the plant's not happy anymore. As I said, Larry helped me plant out some plants and decided to walk around the garden just spreading the mycorrhizal inoculant all over the garden, which isn't a bad thing. But it was a very expensive thing to do. It's not cheap. One broccoli, and those go to get washed. Always wash your containers after you use them. Don't just use them again. Give them a good wash. potential goal with all these garden beds is to interplant everything. So not have this one particular bed has these type of plants, this one has this variety and all that sort of stuff. That's not how nature works. Nature has everything from everywhere, and basically that's how plants can thrive. Each particular plant attracts a certain type of microbe that they have a relationship of feeding each other. The plant's roots will attract that microbe, break down that microbe, and utilize the nutrients that that microbe initially consumed from the soil, whether it be magnesium, nitrogen, phosphorus, whatever. So when you interplant, so tomatoes, along with obviously number one, tomatoes is basil, but also broccolis and stuff that you wouldn't normally plant together, they can work really well, as providing those plants aren't going to conflict with each other through need of water, or some plants can release a particular compound that inhibits the growth of other plants, those sort of things. But for the most part, if you do that, you have all these root systems attracting all these different types of microbes, and you get this really healthy soil as the plant. So in the next few seasons, fingers crossed, I should have gardens that will be thriving. Much like the fungi and root system microbes and fungi. Same thing. I noticed they had a relationship, but basically the plant photosynthesizes the sun, produces carbohydrates and sugars, which then goes down to the root system and feeds the fungi. The fungi then breaks down the particular nutrients that is more readily available for the plant to uptake, along with protecting the root system as well. Fungi can kill off a lot of pests in the soil. So that's broccolis and collies done. I noticed a heap of little feeder roots throughout the bed as I was digging out. I never noticed that before. I'm thinking it's from this manuka here, right from the neighbour's house. I'm going to do some research into that. Hopefully it doesn't inhibit, or it's too thirsty that's going to steal from the plants. I don't think so. Well, the cabbages that have been in this bed haven't been too well. Next, got two savoury cabs. Two savoury cabs, and then a heap of silver beets. When I went to sow these seeds, I went to do some ecostachia, which is a flower, at the same time. And it wasn't until they started to sprout that I realised something wasn't quite right. I got an ecostachia in this cell, and then I got an ecostachia in this cell, as well as two cabbages. I tried to blame it on Carla, just being cheeky. And it almost worked, until she noticed my handwriting on the tag. I don't know how I managed this. Oh my god. Oh wow. That's a pretty good indicator that you should have potted up your seedlings a lot sooner, or done something with them. Although, granted, there is 3 plants in this one cell. They've fully filled this one up, and they're grown into the next cell. They're actually all matted together. Oh my god. I have to sacrifice that flower. They're not gonna like this. Oh, I have butchered that. And generally when a seedling's quite young and the roots get a little bit entangled, they are a little bit forgiving, and you can generally tear them apart and they'll bounce back. But these are probably a little bit too far along. I've potentially just killed them. Okay, so that's everything planted in. Next, the number one thing you should do when always transplanting plants, whether it be seedlings or a growing tree or whatever, water it in straight away. Give it something to drink. Even give the seedlings some food. So in my watering can I've got a little bit of my bokashi tea and a tiny bit of balanced fertilizer, liquid fertilizer. Because that's the one thing I forgot to do the other day when I transplanted those sprouting broccolis. It wasn't until later that night that I remembered I hadn't watered them, and then by the time the next day they were looking pretty sad. But they're starting to bounce back now.